They never looked me in the eye. Not once. Every morning I'd be there before sunrise, and mop in one hand, keys in the other, pushing that yellow bucket like it held my dignity. Maybe it did. Maybe that's why I never let it squeak. Tower 17 was all glass and greed. 18 floors of people who made triple what I made and acted like they were allergic to eye contact. If I disappeared one day, they'd probably just assume the floors cleaned themselves. "Hey, Gerald." "Spill near the elevator," a man barked one morning, his patent leather shoes stomping past me without pause. My name ain't Gerald, never was, but it's what they'd called me for 2 years straight. I didn't correct them. Never did. I figured, if they could live with being wrong, I could live with being silent. Silence, that's a powerful thing when used right. He was wearing a Bluetooth headset and a smug little grin when his coffee slipped through his fingers and hit the marble. Like a crime scene. Double-shot vanilla latte, no lid, splattered like blood on white. He didn't stop, just pointed with his thumb and kept walking. "Wouldn't want that to stain the grout," he muttered over his shoulder. I didn't say a word, just nodded, bent down with the mop, cleaned that floor like it was my home, which in a way it was. He was on the 16th floor. Executive consultant, drove a matte black Porsche Cayenne and parked diagonally like the lines didn't apply to him. Everyone in that building thought they owned something. Truth was, I owned more of that tower than any of them. Every Thursday night, I sat in a dusty office on the edge of Southridge with my accountant. Quiet man, glasses, never asked me why I still mopped floors with calluses on my knuckles when my investment account said otherwise. Just helped me manage my shares. My shares in their building. Funny, isn't it? I was the silent partner nobody noticed. The one the original developer brought in when the market dipped and they needed quick capital. Back when Clarence Monroe still wore a suit and sat in meetings, but that was before the heart attack, before everything changed, before I chose the Tobin that morning, the one with the spilled latte and the missed thank you. I knew it was coming. The transfer. The documents had been signed. Ownership was shifting. The building, the board, the whole damn tower, it was about to bear my name at the bottom of every page. They just didn't know it yet. But they would. Oh, they would. Because sometimes the janitor's just sweeping the floor, and sometimes he's just waiting for everyone else to trip. It was always the floors first. You can tell a lot about people by how they treat the ground beneath them. If they track mud in and keep walking, if they notice a spill and step around it like it ain't their problem, if they look at you on your knees, cleaning up after them and act like you don't exist, yeah, you learn everything you need to know. That morning after the spill, I rode the service elevator to the top. Not the glossy one with brass rails and floor lighting. No, I took the one where the walls still smelled like paint thinner and the buttons stuck. The one they don't even know exists unless it breaks. Floor 18. Technically off limits to me. That's what the sign said anyway. But when you've been in the building long enough, you stop caring about what signs say. The executive boardroom had a glass door, tinted, frosted with the company logo in gold leaf. I watched through the tiki edges as they laughed, 6 of them. Suits sharp, voices louder than necessary, like they wanted the whole floor to know they were important. "You see the janitor this morning?" one of them asked, chuckling. Guy scrubbed the floor like it was an Olympic sport. "What's his name again, Gerald?" "Pretty sure it's Clarence," someone else mumbled. "No, it's Gerald, I think." I watched them argue about my name like I was a stray dog they'd seen more than once. Not enough to remember, just enough to feel vaguely familiar. Clarence Monroe, born 1964, builder by trade, investor by necessity, and now quiet owner of 62% of their company's real estate. But go on. Keep calling me Gerald. I stepped back and let the door close softly behind me. Downstairs, there was a new intern crying in the stairwell. White girl, probably just out of college, with shaky hands and mascara starting to run. "They called me diversity frosting," she said through tears. "Like I'm just here for the company brochure." I didn't ask her name, didn't need to. I handed her a napkin from my back pocket. One I usually kept for cleaning mirrors. "Some people eat too much sugar," I said softly. "Makes them say stupid things." She blinked up at me, confused. "But it's not your job to make them see you right," I added. "It's your job to keep being excellent. So when they finally notice, it's too late to apologize." She stared at me like I'd spoken another language. Then she nodded. I kept walking, floor by floor, grout line by grout line, like I had for the past 5 years. Not because I had to, not even because I wanted to, because I chose to, because people show you who they really are when they think you're beneath them. And when the time came, I wanted to know every face I'd be setting straight. By Wednesday, they'd started talking about the building sale in whispers. Rumors floated like dust on air vents, soft, aimless, drifting from cubicle to cubicle. The receptionist heard it first from an intern who swore her uncle worked in commercial real estate. Then the IT guy said something slipped during a printer maintenance call. "New management's coming," someone whispered in the break room, chewing too loud on celery sticks. "Whole building's gonna change hands, maybe layoffs." The execs kept their smiles a little tighter that day. You could see it, in the way their jokes didn't quite land, in the way they sipped coffee without tasting it. And suddenly, they remembered the janitor existed. Twice someone held a door open for me. That hadn't happened since 2019. Funny how fear makes people polite. By the end of the day, they'd started speculating. Maybe it was a tech firm buying up the property. Maybe it was that overseas conglomerate again, the ones who always sent people in dark suits with translators. They were all wrong. I was in the supply closet reorganizing mop heads when a familiar voice echoed down the hall. "You hear about the acquisition, Marcus?" That was Derek, Floor 16's Strategic Innovation Manager, which, near as I could tell, meant he attended Zoom calls and said words like synergy and disruption, while others did the real work. Marcus grunted. "Yeah, I heard. Supposedly someone already signed the purchase agreement. Full buyout, private entity." Derek laughed nervously. "Man, I hope they keep the leadership team. I mean, we've built something solid here, right?" I leaned against the shelves and listened. "You think it's a foreign investor?" Marcus asked. "No idea," Derek replied. "But whoever they are, I hope they know talent when they see it. They didn't even pause when they walked past the janitor closet, probably assumed it was empty. That's how they always treated me, like furniture, background noise, a smudge on the wall of their pristine self-image. That night, after the building emptied out and the automatic lights dimmed to save energy, I walked up to the rooftop. Same rooftop I helped lay the pavers for in 2012. Same one where the founder shook my hand and asked if I wanted in on something bold. I stood at the edge, looking out over the city. Tower 17 wasn't the tallest, but it stood proud. Clean lines, glass that reflected the sunrise like a mirror. A monument to ambition, and it was mine. I pulled the folded letter from my pocket, the final confirmation. Transfer of ownership, 100%, documents sealed. All signatures notarized. My name, Clarence R. Monroe, was stamped in gold ink beneath the words sole beneficiary. I slid the paper back into my coat and took one last look down at the glowing floors I knew better than anyone. Tomorrow, they'd find out. Not all at once. No grand reveal. Just a slow unraveling, like grout cracking beneath cheap tile. And when they asked who the new owner was, I wanted them to feel it. Because the janitor they laughed at, he'd been watching and he'd remembered everything. The next morning I walked through the front doors like I always did, with a limp in my left leg and a thermos of black coffee in my right hand. But something felt different. It was in the air. The security guard, Jamal, young, polite, always, nodded, looked up from his desk, puzzled. "You hear about this new ownership thing, Mr. Clarence?" He was one of the few who bothered to learn my name. I smiled faintly. "Yeah, heard something." He leaned in, voice low. "Got an email late last night. Said all building access would be reissued today. All badges reset. Gotta re-register." "Everyone floor by floor," I nodded, slow. "That'll shake a few trees," he laughed. "More like knock down the whole damn orchard." Upstairs, chaos had started before 9 a.m. The elevator was packed. People jabbering into Bluetooths, waving ID cards that blinked red instead of green. Even the consultants were stuck, sweating through their linen blazers, fingers stabbing uselessly at floor buttons. "System glitch," someone offered. "Maybe a hack." A secretary called it a hostile takeover. She always had a flair for drama. I watched from the back corner of the elevator, unnoticed in my navy blue janitor's jacket as they speculated about their fate. I heard it's a tech startup buying the building. "No, sis, it's that real estate guy from Manhattan, the one who wears those velvet suits." Please God, not another venture capital firm. When the elevator jolted and stopped at floor 5 instead of 16, panic set in, doors stuck, lights flickered. They looked around like someone might take responsibility. They looked everywhere but at me. Maintenance reset the system within 20 minutes, but the damage was done. The building buzzed like a shaken beehive. Emails pinged. Calls went unanswered. The head of facilities stormed down to the lobby, demanding answers, but the answers weren't coming. Not yet. That afternoon, I got my clipboard, walked straight to the executive wing, and began inspecting light bulbs. Not one person stopped me. That's the thing about being invisible. You become a ghost with keys. I stepped into the break room, the one where they joked about my buff janitor arms like I was deaf. Derek was there bragging as usual. "No. Fay, they'll shake up our team," he said, sipping green juice. "I mean, let's be real. Without me, floor 16 would collapse." I looked him right in the eye this time. He blinked, then looked away. "Hey, Gerald, right?" he asked. I said nothing, just fixed the light above his head and walked out. Down the hall, Marcus's badge still didn't work. He slapped it twice against the reader. What the hell? I tapped a few buttons on the wall panel. Quiet. Efficient. "Try now," I said. He looked surprised that I spoke. More surprised that it worked. "Huh. Thanks, man." "You're welcome," I said. "You might want to check your inbox later." "Why?" I shrugged. "Might be some changes coming." As I walked away, I heard the email chime on his phone, and in my pocket, I carried 10 identical envelopes, thick, white, heavy with legal change, each one sealed with gold foil, each one stamped, "From the office of Clarence R. Monroe, Managing Partner, Tower 17 Holdings." Tomorrow they'd be opened, and nobody would be laughing. They landed like bricks. Thick white envelopes slid onto polished desks, floor by floor, hand-delivered by the overnight courier I'd arranged myself. Each sealed in gold foil, each, one holding the same quiet, devastating truth. From the copy room assistant on floor 3 to the partner-level offices on 16, confusion spread like smoke. What is this? Who's Clarence Monroe? Is this a joke? By 10:12 a.m., the building was humming with tension, not the kind you can hear, the kind you feel in your teeth. Desks were abandoned, emails opened, read, reread. Some people whispered. Others just stared at the paper like it might change if they blinked enough. I stood at the far end of the hall with my mop, my back to them, listening. I didn't need to see their faces. I could already picture them perfectly. It was Marcus who cracked first. He came jogging down the hallway, paper in hand, looking flushed and pale at the same time. He stopped in front of me like he'd run into a ghost. "Excuse me," he panted. You work here, right? Janitor? I gave him a slow nod. He glanced down at the envelope in his hand, then back at me. Do you know who this is, this Monroe guy? I turned toward him for the first time all morning. Yeah, I said, calm and even. I know him. He blinked. Well, who is he? My eyes didn't leave his. Me. Marcus stared, mouth slightly open. A full 7 seconds of silence. Passed? No, he laughed. No, come on, man, that's... I didn't say another word, just pulled out my own envelope, identical to his, and opened it right in front of him. Same gold stamp, same signature. His eyes tracked it like it might disappear if he blinked too fast. And then something in his face, some small flicker of realization, collapsed. You're the new owner? Managing partner, I corrected. Effective this week. He stumbled back one step like the words had weight, like gravity had shifted. I didn't realize... No, I said. Most people don't. Behind him I saw Derek, the consultant, the one with the Porsche and the habit of calling me Gerald even after I stopped responding. He had his envelope open too. His lips were moving, reading line by line, but nothing seemed to be landing. Not yet, but it would. Eventually every word would register, effective immediately. Ownership has transferred. Tower 17 Holdings, a private entity, led by managing partner Clarence R. Monroe, to oversee personnel, operations, and all future. Direction. Somewhere on floor 9 a woman dropped her coffee mug. It shattered. No one moved to clean it up. And me, I just kept pushing my mop forward. Same rhythm, same path. Only this time, they got out of my way. The silence in the lobby was louder than any fire drill. Reception sat empty. Phones rang unanswered. The clicking of heels and polished shoes had stopped, replaced by something new. Hushed tones, frantic typing, worried eyes darting across cubicle walls. I stepped into the executive elevator, alone this time. They had stopped riding with me. Before, it was like I wasn't there. Now they saw me too much. The mirrored walls reflected a man they never bothered to study. Dark blue coveralls, clean pressed, shoes shined, hair cut low and even. No name tag today, just the quiet presence of someone who'd waited years for a moment that was never supposed to arrive. Ding. Floor 16. The door slid open. 3 heads snapped up from a glass conference table. Derek was there. So was Marcus. And Dana, the head of culture and morale, who once asked me if I could smile more when vacuuming. They were mid-meeting, of course they were. Papers spread, iPads glowing, someone's voice trailing off mid-sentence as I stepped forward. Dana cleared her throat, eyes wide. We're in a private... It's all right, I said, calmly. I own the table. They didn't laugh. Derek stood. Mr. Monroe, right? Listen, we got your notice. First off, congratulations. Big move, really. We were just discussing how we could help ease the transition. I pulled out a chair, sat, looked around the room like I was studying the trim on the walls. I've already eased the transition, I said. Now I'm studying the damage. Marcus opened his mouth, then shut it. His fingers twitched over the folder in front of him like it might save him if he touched it hard enough. Dana tried again. We've been running operations smoothly for years. I'm sure you've seen the quarterly reports. I've seen everything, I said quietly. From the marble in the lobby to the mold behind the kitchen sink on 11, from the supply orders you overcharge for to the bonuses that only go one direction. Derek let out a nervous laugh. Right, well, every operation has room to tighten up. We're all about accountability here. Good, I said. You'll like the new leadership plan. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the second stack of envelopes, these ones thinner, sharper. I handed them out one by one like communion. Marcus took his last. His hands shook just a little. Dana flipped hers open first. Her lips moved as she read, then froze. This says that your role is being dissolved, I said. Effective immediately, redundancy. Marcus looked at his, jaw locked. This is a demotion. No, I said. That's a correction. Derek didn't even open his. He just stared at me like trying to figure out how this happened. How did you, he began. How did I what? I asked. Build enough wealth to buy the building you thought I was just cleaning? He swallowed hard. You ever stop to wonder why I knew where every wire ran in this place? Why I had a master key before you had a job title? Why I was in the room when the original contracts were signed, sitting at the far end listening? None of them answered. Exactly, I said, standing. You never noticed. Not until your keycard stopped working. And with that, I turned and walked out of the conference room. The air felt different on my skin, lighter somehow, like a weight had shifted. One hallway down, an intern with her curls pulled back and a notepad in hand stopped me. Mr. Monroe? She asked, eyes wide. I paused. Yes? She hesitated, then said, I just wanted to say thank you for what you said the other day. In the stairwell. I nodded once. You're welcome. She looked around, lowered her voice. And, is it true you really used to mop these floors? I still do, I almost said. But instead I smiled. No, I said, I never used to. By the end of the week, everything in Tower 17 had changed, except the floors. I still cleaned them. Not out of obligation, but by choice. A ritual. A way to remember what most people tried to forget, that everything built high starts low. But the people, now they moved different. The receptionist, who used to nod through me like a pane of glass, now stood when I passed. The consultants who never learned my name now called me Sir, their voices stitched with caution. Even the barista in the lobby cafe offered me free coffee, her eyes tracking my face like I might be someone important. Funny how respect suddenly shows up when power does. But the ones who mattered, they were watching quietly. People like Carla, the janitorial night lead who had once been docked hours for speaking up about mold in the stairwell. People like James, who worked maintenance on the HVAC system and never got credit for fixing the emergency shut-off valve that could have flooded floors 8 through 12. And people like that intern, Tasha, the one they called diversity frosting. She walked taller now, asked sharper questions in meetings, and I'd noticed they didn't talk over her anymore. On Monday, I called for a building-wide assembly, mandatory, all staff, no exceptions. They gathered in the lobby, some curious, some afraid, some just annoyed to be off schedule. I didn't take the stage. I stood on the floor, same boots, same jacket, microphone in hand. I was once told, I began, that some people only shine when the lights are on them, but others shine when no one's looking, when it's just them, the silence, and a job that still needs to get done. The lobby was quiet now. Even the clicking heels had stopped. For years I walked these halls and watched how people treated each other, watched who got dismissed, watched who got listened to, watched who took credit, and who got blamed. Eyes shifted. Some looked down, others straight ahead. Tower 17 isn't just a building, it's a mirror, and mirrors, when polished right, show the truth. I scanned the room slowly. No more diversity frosting, no more whisper jokes or invisible labor. If you're here to work, you'll be treated with dignity. If you're here to lead, you better know how to listen. Tasha stood in the back, hands clasped. Carla nodded so subtly it almost didn't register. And if you're here to climb over people to get ahead, I paused, then consider this your last floor. There was no applause, just silence, respectful, weighted, real. And when I turned and walked away, no one stopped me. No one told me to clean up after, because they knew now I'd already cleaned the whole place up. 6 months later, they stopped calling me the janitor. Not because I corrected them. I never needed to. They just saw me now. It was funny. The newer hires had never known anything else. To them, Mr. Monroe was just the owner. The one who still came in early, still wore work boots, still knew where every pipe ran beneath the floor. But the ones who'd been there before, they remembered. They remembered stepping over me like I was part of the floor plan, remembered the spilled lattes, the offhand jokes, the boardroom chuckles when I walked by, remembered never once asking my name, and now they held the door for me. Funny how dignity makes people double back. I didn't fire everyone. That's not the kind of man I am. But the ones who needed to go, they left, and the ones who stayed, they learned how to speak to everyone, even the quiet ones, even the ones holding brooms. Tasha got promoted, full-time, creative lead on the new community outreach program. She still sent me every pitch deck before it went to the board, not because I asked, but because she said she wanted my eyes on it. You see things different, she told me once. Like you've already watched the movie. Carla now ran the entire building's operations team. Better hours. Full benefits. First one I signed the new contract for. And me. I still walked the halls before sunrise. Still carried a thermos of black coffee. Still nodded to the night crew. Still caught little things. Loose tiles, flickering lights. The smell of gas near the old generator room no one else noticed. Because you don't stop being who you are just because the title changes. You just get to protect the people who remind you where you came from. One morning, Derek, the consultant, with the Porsche, ran into me by the elevator. He'd survived the restructuring barely. Kept his head down after that. Started actually doing his job. I'd heard from HR he'd asked to sit in on diversity training, just to listen. "Morning, Mr. Monroe," he said now, eyes honest. I looked at him. "Morning, Derek." He hesitated, then added, "I know we got off on the wrong foot. I was wrong back then." So I waited. He looked me in the eye, and I'm sorry, I nodded. "Then do better," I said. He nodded back, didn't try to shake my hand. Just stood a little straighter, like maybe he understood now. Later that week, a young janitor, just hired, asked if I'd ever done the job myself. I smiled. "Long enough to know the corners matter," I said. She grinned. "People don't always look at you, you know." I paused, then looked her in the eye. "Let them keep looking past you," I said. "Just make sure you're watching everything." And as I turned away, I caught my own reflection in the polished glass wall beside us. Not a janitor, not a CEO, just a man who never needed to raise his voice to be heard. Some buildings stand tall because of their height, others because of the people who keep them clean, even when no one's watching. And this one shines because I did.